everybody. My name's Lori, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called Inclusivity, and we are all about justice and kindness and art and sustainable fashion. And this is our podcast, Inclusivi-TALKS. And so our guest today is Emily Engelhard, who is a local artist in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis area. And I met Emily because my husband, who's also an artist, went to a show, and Emily was literally at the next table. And I started watching her work. She was actually creating while we were there. And I thought her work was so beautiful and stunning that I asked her if she would work with the company and do some work for us. And so she has been our supporter and friend ever since then. And the reason we're having her on today, not just because she's amazing, but also because she is creating a panel for our artists who share auction raising money for coronavirus recovery. So Emily, I am so glad to have you here, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is a really wonderful thing that you're doing, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. As I'm happy to be a part of everything that you're doing.
Well, I love you, so that's really good.
Cool.
So the first thing I just want to ask is, how did you if you want to just tell us a history of art for you. So how did you become an artist? When did that sort of start where you knew that was going to be something you loved?
I have actually been an artist my entire life. I still have boxes of drawings I did when I was a little kid. I would write children's books, or I guess I would just write books when I was younger, and I would illustrate them. So I really can't pinpoint the exact moment in my life where I knew that I loved art. I think I was just kind of born that way. And I think it's in my genes. My father is a musician and a carpenter, and my mom is a painter. And so I am made from two artists, and I grew up around art, and I saw it, and it was what was right. It is what we did with our free time, and so I just kept going. It's not really a choice.
What is the first children's, like if you wrote books, what do you have a title? Do you have a book that you can tell us about that you wrote when you were young?
Oh my gosh. I can't remember the title. But of course, if you know me, I love wolves. It was the book that I remember. It was about a family of wolves who bought a swimming pool. That was pretty much the gist of the book. So,
well, that sounds really fun.
It was fun. I hope I still have a lot of those books saved.
That's very cool. I wrote a book called The Party in My Locker, which was all about how when I went off to school, all of the things in my locker got out of my locker and had a party. So that was my children's book.
Oh,
the illustrations were quite horrible, though. So I think yours were probably a lot better.
I bet they were beautiful.
So your dad's a carpenter,
mm-hmm.
and your mom's an artist. Are they both still living?
Yeah.
Okay. And are they both still working?
Yes, kind of, in these times.
Yeah.
But yes, normally, yes, they are still working.
And what's your mom's art like?
Well, actually, right behind me, this is one of her pieces. She mostly does, abstract art. So she's an abstract painter. She works on a really large scale. And she paints a lot of what I think are, and what I think she's starting to kind of see are landscapes.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fields, a lot of big, colorful, kind of stormy skies. She just paints these incredible worlds of color and movement, and they're just so inspiring. I mean, the one behind me is kind of more of a reserved painting, but I have a couple in my house. So
well, maybe at some point you can walk around and just show us one of your mom's pieces. I would love that.
Okay.
So where do your parents live?
My mom lives in Florida, and my dad lives in central New York.
Okay. Well, I may want to see your mom's work at some point, and because it sounds remarkable. So you started out at a very young age, and was it always drawing? What sort of pulled to you as an artist?
Yeah, it's actually always been drawing. When I was younger, I drew, with colored pencils, and just regular, like, number 2 pencil, and I think crayon, obviously. And that's kind of what I stuck with, was pencil drawing, all the way up until I was maybe in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw my sister, all of my sisters are artists too, and my younger sister started drawing as well. We kind of like bounced off each other and inspired one another. And she was drawing in pen, and I thought, that's really cool. And so about 13 years ago, I started kind of messing around with ballpoint pen, and not sadly, there's kind of this longing to draw in pencil again. But I kind of evolved into a ballpoint pen artist from a pencil artist.
Tell me a little bit about how that's different, like, because it feels to me like that would be sort of a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that change.
I think for me, with ballpoint pen, it takes a lot more concentration. You have to be much more aware of how you're holding the pen, how hard you're pressing down on the surface. And pencil is obviously a lot more forgiving than ballpoint pen, because with pencil, you can make all kinds of mistakes. You can take risks without really taking a risk, because I can just, erase it if I don't like it. And so there's this kind of relaxed nature of pencil, but with pen, especially how I first started drawing with ballpoint pen, I wouldn't draw out the basic outline in pencil. I would just go at it. I would just say, I want to draw a horse, and then I would just start drawing a horse.
Mm-hmm.
So when I made a mistake, I had to make it work. I had to find a way to make it a part of the picture. And so I think drawing in ballpoint pen has also made me more creative,
Mm-hmm.
because I just have to go with, what happens, and some really incredible details or stories or symbolism will kind of rise out of what is a mistake.
That's kind of amazing. So it's a different process as far as your art.
Completely different. I feel like it has changed my mind. I mean, obviously sitting down and drawing in pen every day, it reforms your mind.
I love that.
Opinion. Yeah. And so I feel like it's been very therapeutic for me, because I remember when I was younger, I have obsessive compulsive disorder. And when I was younger, I would be taking a test and I'd be writing in pencil. And if my whole answer didn't fit on the line, I had to erase it until it fit. And so in a weird way, pen has been it has taught me how to let go.
I was going to say, I think that that's an incredibly therapeutic thing. As you know, I'm a psychologist as well as a business owner. And I love that strategy for making yourself sort of overcome this draw to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I would guess it also made you much more creative in some ways, because you were trying to fit in a mistake. So you had to think bigger and bigger and bigger and more and more and more sort of outside the box of drawing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, but finish your statement. Sorry.
So it's almost like, I feel like when I'm creating a drawing or a painting or whatever, that it's kind of creating itself.
I love
and
that.
I think with pen, it allows me to let the pen create itself. I can't say, no, I didn't want that line, and then erase it. I'm like, okay, you wanted that to be there, so I'll make it work.
I think that's fantastic. So Emily, I know that you use other mediums along with your pens and pencils. So what else do you like to create with?
For a while, I really liked Prismacolor colored pencils. They're just very soft and they blend well, but I think I'm really settling. I think my two mediums are going to be ballpoint pen and then watercolor.
Okay.
That's mainly what I color with now is watercolor. Sometimes, you know, if I just need to kind of have a relaxing day, I'll do some pastel or revisit graphite pencil, but that's pretty much it. So.
And why particularly watercolors? Because since I've been doing these interviews, I've been talking to artists about why they chose watercolors or acrylics or oils or whatever it was. So what is watercolors for you? Why is that the right medium?
It's the right medium for me because I've always, you know, when I drew with pencil, I worked on paper. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, versus a canvas or Mylar or, you know, some other surface, panels or whatever, paper has just always been my favorite surface. And so really watercolor is meant for paper. And so I think it was just kind of like a natural connection there. You know, I said, okay, well, what do I put on paper? And then it became watercolor. And honestly, watercolor is cheaper than acrylic.
It's a good reason.
It's more portable. I love that you can just let it dry out and then you can introduce water to it again and it comes back to life. And so I think it's a very good friend. It's very, you know, you can manipulate it, but it also has like a life of its own. And if you make a mistake and you get to it quickly enough, you can absorb it back up with water. So it's fun to play. It's fun to play with. It's a challenge, but it's also like a very gentle challenge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Emily, you mentioned OCD. Is it okay if I ask you a question about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm very open about all that.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions if that's all right. I think it's important that people are willing to talk about the things that are going on with them because I think it helps other people. So if you're willing, that's terrific.
I 100% agree.
Okay. So my first question is, when were you diagnosed? When did you sort of know that this was something?
I can't remember the exact age, but I was pretty young. I would have to say, I mean, it had to have been around like 5 or 7 that I remember adopting these compulsions and that I remember my family noticing them. So it's been almost my whole life.
Okay. And how did you first deal with those? Because they're so challenging.
Yeah, when I was younger, I think it arose as the result of trauma that I went through. And so I didn't know how to handle it. To be honest, I was terrified. I mean, my OCD was not just in physical compulsions, but it's in my mind. And so thoughts, actions, it was so overwhelming. It almost like consumed me. But as I grew older, I'm not exactly sure what helped me before I actually sought like medication and therapy. But I think I just kind of naturally adjusted to it. I worked my life around it. I don't know. It's been with me for so long. It's kind of hard to track.
And what strategies do you use to manage it? I mean, I love the ink because I think it's a nice way to just keep reminding yourself that it's okay. That perfection isn't necessary. So I think it's a practical, smart way to teach yourself that. But what other strategies do you think you use?
So before I saw it, I'm currently seeing a behavioral therapist, but before, and I'll tell you about those techniques, but before that, I don't really know. I think, I do know. I kept myself very busy. I cleaned a lot. I exercised a lot. I think my original way of dealing with OCD was to just kind of burn all the energy out of me. And one of the ways was, and also to channel the obsessive compulsive energy into something positive, like gardening or absolutely drawing. I am very detail oriented, and so a good long 4-hour session of drawing would just completely drain that from me. But that gets exhausting as you get older, constantly just having to keep yourself busy. And so I went on medication. I'm taking Lexapro, and that kind of helped get me down to a manageable level. And then some things happened, and I ended up at in this behavioral therapist's office, and he sat down with me and he said, this is all you. I'm going to teach you the actions you need to learn in order to overcome this prison of your mind. And so I took it on, and one of the methods is this 4-step method. And I forgot the author, but this psychologist wrote this book called Brain Lock, and it's these 4 steps that you take to overcome obsessive compulsive disorder. And the first one is, you just have to acknowledge that it's a problem. You have to acknowledge that what you are feeling is a disease or whatever. And then the second one is to attribute it to what it really is. It's not me, it's my mind. It's the faulty wiring, the overwrought scaffolding, the unbalanced chemicals. It's not me, it's my OCD. And then the third step is to perform some sort of practice or physical movement to kind of push yourself away from your mind. And then the fourth step is just kind of maintenance. After you get the 3 steps down, once you kind of fall into an obsessive thought or action, you're like, nope, that's a garbage thought. That's not a normal thought. So that was very long, but
it was wonderful, because that's really perfect. It's really a perfect strategy. It's hard to use, but I think if you can train yourself to use it and forgive yourself when you don't, and then start again.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
And I think that's the key too. I'm going to be honest, this whole time has really knocked me off whatever stability I had built for myself. But I think it's really important for everyone to just kind of forgive themselves and be gentle with themselves, because being angry with yourself or saying you're bad because you didn't practice your 4 steps today, it accomplishes nothing, and it only sets yourself back further. I think one of the most important things in recovering from any sort of mental challenge is to love yourself through the whole thing, and to forgive yourself, and to be open, and to talk to other people about it, and even maybe start conversations with people you love, who, I know for me, OCD has affected a lot of my relationships with people. And just being honest about that with them also fosters healing. Yeah.
I like that a lot. And I think one of the most important things you said was that the OCD is not you. The OCD is its own thing. It's your brain. It is not you. It doesn't define you. And the OCD it's a separate entity. And I think people can get really self-blaming. And if I were stronger, if I were better, I wouldn't be doing this. And that's just simply not true. The OCD is like a powerful monster that kind of is right there trying to lead you down a path that's not good for you. And it's a constant kind of thing. And so I think when you can remember that you're not the OCD, it helps a lot, because you can forgive yourself then when you do things you wish you hadn't done. When I'm teaching my clients about OCD, I do sometimes remind them that the OCD is always, always wrong.
It is.
Because when you're arguing with it, I think it's important to remind yourself that it is always wrong. And that you know the right things, that you're not.
then it's also not as scary as it makes itself out to be. I mean, it sometimes when I was at my worst, it would loom up large, like this huge, horrible monster. And it'd be like, if you don't do these things, this is going to happen to you. And it was like, it felt like a storm cloud. And then once I started taking steps, I was like, you are just this tiny little flimsy thing. You're like a wisp of smoke that I can just blow away.
I like that.
It's wild. Our brains are so wild.
They're so wild. And I think that you are always bigger than the OCD. I think that's exactly what you were just saying, is that it's a tiny little thing. You are the powerful one. It doesn't mean it can't kick you to the floor sometimes.
Oh yeah, and it will, and that's okay. Sometimes maybe you just need to take a nap.
Or draw for 4 hours.
Or draw for 4 hours, or go for a walk. You know, and that's the other thing too, is like OCD, like taking those steps to combat it. You know, those steps have to be positive. So you're also, through healing, introducing so many beautiful things into your life, you know, like a meditation practice or gardening or whatever works.
So speaking of that, besides your art, what else do you like? What else are your passions? What else do you love?
I love a lot of things. As far as another art goes, I'm a writer. I have an MFA in creative writing, so I'm kind of always dabbling in that. It's not my main focus, but it's just a gorgeous form of expression that I love to get lost in. And I'm what's that word? I'm kind of loosely collaborating with one of my friends who is an artist, and I feel very connected to her art. And so I'm writing poetry for her art, for what her creatures say to me, what they teach me, and it's wonderful. I need to do it more, but so other than writing, I love nature. I love being in the woods. I would give up this incredible life in the city just to be a hermit in the woods. Like the forest is my best friend. I love working with wildlife. I love gardening.
Don't you volunteer at a wildlife refuge?
Yes, in better times I would be there, but I do. For about 5 years during baby season, which is from about May until October, believe it or not. I volunteer for the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center in Roseville, Minnesota, and I work with the songbirds. So I help take care of like tiny itty bitty baby birds and adult birds. I feed crows. It's really wonderful. It is. I only do it for 4 hours a week, 6 months out of the year, but that's like my true job.
I love that.
That's my real career. And if I could do it full time, oh man, I would just, that's what I'd be doing.
So Emily, I still want to ask you a bunch of other questions, but I want to know if maybe you'll show us what you're creating for us. And maybe if you'd like to do some design while we talk, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I know you're going to move the camera, and then we may do a little bit of editing here and cut out the movement, but.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna attempt this.
Okay.
Okay. Well, here's actually one of my mom's paintings.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, this is one of her, what I think is like a field, like a foggy field.
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. Let me know if I'm getting that right. So is that kind of where
that looks pretty good.
That looks pretty darn good. Okay, here I'll like pretend I'm. So does that?
Yep, that's good.
Okay.
So Emily, tell us about your design.
So this design is actually very spiritual in nature. I recently, well, I've kind of been trying to work on my meditating skills. I've kind of gone on this 2-year, really intense spiritual sort of journey, trying to figure out where I fit into that whole idea and concept. And through meditation and a lot of different things, I have recognized something within me, this presence, this sort of body of love that has been guiding me throughout my whole life, but that I'm just kind of sort of recognizing. And so when I meditate now, I try to focus on that center within me, whatever it is. And during one of my meditation sessions where I was actually able to stop thinking about things and just let whatever arose in my mind rise into my mind, I saw this image. And in this vision, I was floating in the center of this what I think looks like a flower, in darkness. And whatever this was, it was moving around me, and it felt like love. And it, to me, it was, I guess it was like a form of God. It was the source. It was something that I'm still discovering, still trying to understand. And so I just wanted to draw it.
Well, I mean, what a treat that you're drawing it for us. I mean, what a big deal that you're drawing this for us. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you and what you're doing are so incredible and so genuine. Whenever I talk about you and what you're doing, I'm almost like I'm in disbelief about how wonderful this person is and how much love she is composed of. And so I think there's a reason why this image came out now, because it wanted to be a part of everything beautiful that you're doing, because what you're doing is all about love. And so what better place to put it?
Thank you. That's lovely. So Emily, while you're working, so tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now. So are you doing the ink sketching right now?
So I did the initial drawing just because I was feeling a little nervous. So I was like, I gotta start, you know. So I am gonna go over and darken it, but right now I'm actually going to add watercolor.
Okay.
And I was really surprised at how wonderful this material takes watercolor.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. We weren't quite sure.
I was worried that I would have to do like marker or something, but I tried ballpoint pen and watercolor, and this material and my medium seem to really like each other. So.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. So what is this, hemp or?
It's hemp. Yep. It's hemp canvas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm glad it works for the watercolor.
It does. It drinks it really well. And it also, unlike paper, the watercolor is permanent on here.
Oh, good.
I goofed up in the corner and I tried to rinse it off and it wouldn't rinse off. And I was actually really happy about that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So Emily, if you were, I'm going to tell us what you think your life will look like in a couple of years. What else are you looking for? Sort of what's your next, something you'd love to see?
I guess I can be a very content person.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the things I want or where I want to see myself are not necessarily, you know, where will I be in as far as like a home goes or a job. I think for me, I just want to have achieved a more peaceful and loving life, a life that's more active in the community and with wildlife, and one in which I am more able to unconditionally love. I'm going to be honest. I had kind of a rocky start in this world, with school, in high school and stuff like that. And so I kind of fell into some bad habits, that kind of diminished my ability to love. And there were actually quite a few years where I was almost incapable of it. And so I feel like I'm on this journey to get it back, to get my love back.
I love that.
And so that's where I hope I am. I hope that I remember how to fully love again the way a child loves.
Emily, I'm so glad I met you.
I'm so glad I met you too. You are very wonderful, and you are one of my teachers.
And I feel the same way about you. So that's kind of a lovely thing when that happens.
You're really sweet.
So
we
Emily,
were meant to meet, though.
What'd you say?
I'm sorry. We were. I believe that you and I were definitely meant to meet. Like there was a reason why we were both in that blue room together during the art show.
I agree. So Emily, if there was something that you wanted to, a piece of advice or a life lesson that you'd like to tell people who are younger than you are and maybe are struggling with some of the same things that you have in your life, what would that be?
I sometimes don't know if I'm equipped to give advice, but I think it would be to not judge yourself so harshly, to try to see yourself as a friend or just like another human being in general who really needs support, who needs someone to listen to them. And I think one thing that I often find myself telling one of my sisters is she sometimes says, oh, I don't like this aspect of myself. I don't like who I am. I need to stop being this way. And I always kind of stress to her, don't look at the things that you do, the energies that you contain as something negative, because nothing within you is negative. Everything that you're feeling is something within you that needs attention or that needs redirection. And so to take those energies, and I guess in my case with OCD, I try not to look at it and see it as a problem, but I look at it and I try to see it as an energy that needs to be redirected into something positive. And for me, that's taking care of wildlife and it's drawing. And so I guess the advice that I would give anybody is do not be hard on yourself and do not list your flaws, or at least do not cast them in the light as a problem or a flaw. See everything that you're feeling as an energy that needs to be sat down with and understood and redirected into something beautiful, because everything you contain can really be a tool that will help you move very beautifully and graciously through this life. And I think that's kind of our purpose as human beings. You know, we're born with all these, there's this idea of original sin. I don't really believe in that. I think we're just born with all these wild energies, and we're born into this world that doesn't let those energies move and grow in the way that they need to grow. And so we kind of have to more mindfully create space for those wild and beautiful energies.
I love that.
I
So,
go ahead, sorry.
oh no, finish your thought.
I start going on these, like, I don't even know if I'm answering your question.
Oh, you certainly were. So
Okay.
I love that. And I love the idea of whatever's in you, accept it and figure out how to move it in a positive direction.
Yeah.
How does it help you? How does it in some way inform you? I love that.
Yeah, like loving yourself isn't just loving what you think is the good parts of you. It's loving every single dark corner of yourself.
So Emily, I know you said you are working on doing some writing for a friend's art. Have you ever thought about doing your own art and illustrating and writing with that as well?
I have. I don't know why. A lot of people have encouraged me to do it, and I'm not exactly sure why I haven't done it yet. But maybe.
And maybe you're just not ready.
Yeah, I kind of go with like where I feel the current is pulling me, and right now it's not in that direction.
Yep. So the most important things in your life, if you had to sort of describe what's most important to you right now in your life, what would you say?
The most important thing in my life to me always are the people I love. My family, my friends, my husband, my dogs, you know, and obviously my husband's family is my family. So it's really just my people. Those are the most important things in my life, especially my sisters. I believe that my sisters and I, we are not all from the same combination of parents, and a couple of us don't even have any blood relation. But these girls, these beautiful women are just everything to me. And I honestly believe that I always tell this to them, and I think they think I'm the weird sister. They think I'm weird, but I think they agree too, that my sisters have been with me since the Big Bang. And in every life, we just have to find each other again.
I love that.
We've all found each other.
So
when I think about love, they're the first ones that come to my mind.
So with your sisters, you said you weren't all from the same exactly the same biological pool, and some of you aren't even blood relations. Did you grow up still spending time together?
Yes, we did. For a time, we all lived in Virginia Beach together.
Okay. And are they younger, older, combination of the two?
I have an older sister, and then the rest are younger.
Okay. And how many are you?
We are, I have to always count on my fingers. We are 5.
Okay. That's pretty amazing to have 5 women in your life that are spectacular, connected.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. We're all just so different and weird in our own ways. And when we get together, which isn't often, sadly, because we're all, you know, I live so far from all of them. It's just the best time. We mostly just spend our time just laughing so hard.
Everybody needs that. Have you been able to stay during this really weird, difficult period? Have you been able to stay in touch with Zoom and things like that?
We talk to each other, but we're a very hermit-like family.
Okay.
So it's rare that we reach out to each other, honestly, but I don't think it doesn't really upset any of us because we all know that we are all entrenched in love. So, but we do we talk to each other more than we did before all this.
Okay. I think that I sort of think that some of the most precious relationships are the ones that, even if I don't talk to the person for 2 months, as soon as I talk to them again, we know we're soulmates. We're just connected in such an intimate way that we don't need to actually feel like we need to talk all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of dog do you have?
We just got another dog. So our first dog is a beagle. Her name is Lola. And then we just adopted a dog, and his name is Buddy. And we are not sure because he's a rescue. We think he's a lab and Australian cattle dog.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he's cute. They both are very sensitive and moody creatures. They both have jealousy issues. So these past 2 weeks have been so exhausting for my husband and I because we spend all our free time just coddling our dogs.
That's very funny.
They're perfect.
So one of the things that I always like to ask people, because I think people are pretty fascinating, and I think everybody has stories in their lives that are just interesting and meaningful to them. So I always ask everyone to tell me a story from their life. And I always preface it by saying, it does not have to be the story. It doesn't have to have a lesson. It doesn't have to be something that's a teaching moment. It really is just something that comes to your mind when you think about your life, when you think of a story. And we've had people tell the simplest things, like one person talked about trying to fry an egg on the sidewalk when they were a child.
Uh-huh.
So it's sort of, and then we've had other people talk about big spiritual awakenings that they've had. So I think that it's kind of run the gamut. But so I'm wondering if you just tell us a story.
Sure. This might be our long break.
That's okay.
I'm gonna switch over to pen too. I guess whenever I want to tell a story, it's always a story in my childhood, because childhood was just my favorite time in life. I think I was thinking about this question when you first, told me I'd be talking about this. And I think what I'm going to talk about is when I was little and living in Virginia Beach. I was living with my mom, my stepdad, my sister Marie, and I. And we had like this big group of friends in the neighborhood, and we would go on all sorts of adventures together. And one of our favorite things to do, I don't know why I remember this so well, but one of our favorite things to do is we would get on our bikes and we'd ride to this golf course or something. And we would climb the fence and we'd look over the fence at the like perfect grass and the pond with this huge like fountain in it and this giant house, which is just like whatever, the golf course building. And we would always like pretend that we were these like runaways who were spying on like the rich bad people. I don't know, that's like a weird story, but I remember that. Maybe I'll tell another story.
Well, you can tell another, although I totally get that story.
Yeah, it was so fun. Like we used to even take bandanas and like pack them with like a few supplies and then like run away from home. Like running away from home and spying on the elite were just something we did. But the other thing that we did, and this kind of involves my mom, was she's so funny. She'll paint this beautiful, gorgeous painting, and then like 2 years later, she'll be like, I hate this painting. I'm going to get rid of it. And so sometimes, I remember this one time in particular, it was really lovely. She had painted this painting that kind of looked like coral. Mm-hmm. She wanted to get rid of it. And so what she did was she cut the painting into pieces into the shape of fairy wings. And she made fairy wings for me, my sister, and all of our friends. And she pinned them to our shirts. And we spent the whole day running around in the yard pretending to fly. And whenever another kid like rode by on their bike or in their car, we just felt so amazing because, you know, we were certain they thought we actually had wings.
Well, and you had these beautiful flowers, these beautiful fairy wings designed by your mom.
Yeah,
That's very
it was,
clever.
she just let us, you know, both of my parents just let us be like weird individual creative people. And so um, it was just really fun. And
Yeah.
my dad would always take a, you know, I remember always going to the beach with my dad.
Hmm.
Um, I remember for some reason, like I know my mom took us to the beach, but it was mostly my dad because I think he brought boogie boards and tubes, and we'd go way out to the sandbar. And I remember my little sister Julia, she was just like me. She always pretended she was an animal. And I
Hmm.
remember she would spend hours prowling around through the edge of the ocean pretending to be like a sea lion. And it
Oh,
was so fun to watch her.
that's kind of amazing. Yeah, that's very fun. What kind of, would you be a wolf or were there other animals that you would be?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I am a weird person. And when I was younger, I think it's kind of as a way to deal with unfamiliar or scary situations, I would actually pretend to be an animal or pretend to have like an animal element like wings or a tail or antlers or something. So I can safely say that I spent most of my childhood as another creature. And often I, for some reason, I really liked like squirrels, like
Mm,
little furry animals. And so
I
I
love
think
it.
yeah, I was often like a squirrel type creature or something.
So, what's clear to me, Emily, even before this, but especially after talking with you today, is that you are just wildly creative, and that's just always been such a core defining feature of you.
I think, yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm definitely not like the career type or the mathematical calculating reasoning type. Everything I've done in life, every decision I've made, I think has been kind of creative and
Hmm.
spontaneous. And I'm
So,
so
give us,
grateful.
oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say I'm just so grateful for the parents I had too because they never tried to push us in a direction they wanted us to go in. They never, you know, saw my art and said, well, it's not going to get you anywhere. You
Mhm.
know, they always were just so encouraging of that. And it made me realize that the love that they have for us extends beyond this world in which we just have to grow up and do all these things and survive, you know. Their love for me, and maybe they don't see it this way, but I see it this way, is just, you know, the spiritual growth, this
Yeah,
self-discovery, and it's really wonderful.
I love that. So, Emily, thank you so much for showing us some of your creative process. This is amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit about what else? What is that going to stand on its own on the panel, or are there other design elements that you're thinking about?
Um, I I honestly, I don't fully know, but I'm definitely going to add color in the background. I'm just
Okay.
not sure if it'll fill the whole space or if it'll just be kind of like a fog, like a shape.
Well, I'm extremely excited about it. I think it's beautiful.
Oh, thank
I can't wait to see what it looks like on. I think I've sent you, pictures of the bags that we also next week. In fact, I'm picking up a frame that goes on the wall as well. So there'll also
you.
be a frame that the images can be hung on the wall.
I love your products. They look really cool. That jacket is cool. The bag is cool.
Yeah,
It's
I'm so excited about it. So anybody who's watching who doesn't know, we just launched Shareables, which is a collection that has a bag and a jacket. And like I just said, we're getting a frame for the wall, and you can use one design. So Emily's design, for example, will fit on all three of those components, so that whoever buys it in the auction can actually use it in any of those products. and carry her art with them if they want, or hang her art on their wall, which I think is just such a cool way to share art as well. I'm just really, really excited about it.
Yeah.
And we are just going to have some great art. It's fun and such different pieces. So I can't wait to show all the pieces to everyone.
I know, I'm excited.
Emily, is there anything else that you would like to talk about? Anything that I didn't bring up that you'd like to share with us?
I don't know. Just I wish everyone out there right now, you know, a lot of peace and happiness, whatever they can find during this time. And I just hope you're all well, and we're gonna get through this.
We are going to get through this.
Yeah.
And I truly do believe, although this is really hard and scary, I think that we can get through it and be even better us's on the other end.
Yeah, I believe that too, and I do hope that's what happens.
So Emily, thank you so much. That is gorgeous. I cannot wait to see although I'm also excited about being surprised, so I can't wait to see what you come up with at the end. It's truly beautiful, and I'm, as always, just thrilled to have you be part of our lives. I'm so happy that you're there.
Oh, you were just so sweet, and I'm really happy that you and I found each other in this life too, because you're just very wonderful, and it feels like a very magical connection.
Well, I feel the same way. So thank you very much. This has been Inclusive with Emily Engelhard. And Emily, what's your website?
My website is Emily Engelhard Art.
Okay, Emily Engelhard Art. So check out all of Emily's beautiful designs, and I will see you another time. Thank you. Bye.